What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. In today's adventure, we did our movies. It is now time for us to once again go through our complete book collection. It took a little while. Obviously, January, we had a whole bunch of other stuff going on, so I didn't get a chance to get to this till now, but I wanted to do it now so that I could see how much the collection has grown, how much it will grow again next year, because we have got a plethora of new books compared to last year. I found a bunch of my books that I could not find in the process of when I was moving, so we've got new books that shown up that were missing for a while, and we've got new books that we've just added to the collection. So we're going to dive into all of that here today, and we're not going to waste any time because we've got so many fucking books to get through. So we're going to dive right into it. It's going to go A through Z. We're going to go through all the great authors, all the great books, everything I've gone through. We'll go through what I've read, what I haven't read, what I've still got to read, and all that good stuff. And we're going to kick it off here with this book, The White Tiger. Like I said, I had this last year. Like I said, it's a book I still have yet to read. I had picked it up because I saw the Netflix movie, which I liked, but I still have yet to get a shot to read that one. Two books that were missing in my collection that I managed to find were Isaac Asimov books. I've got Foundation and Foundation Empire. These were great books that I read in high school that I loved, and I just never gotten any of the other ones. So I do have to eventually get in there and read the rest of those ones. Now we have our first big, huge motherfucker, and that is one of my favorite authors, and that is David Baldacci. I've read a large majority of his books. I'm going through to find the back catalog of books. His is a collection that I want as many of the hardcovers as I could find, and I've gotten a lot of them. I think I only have maybe like 7 or 8 left to go. So I'm very much made headway in this last year for that book series. I have so many hardcovers that we're going to get into. They're not in the particular order of what I tried to do them in order, but as I've found more of them and everything, and the stack has just grown higher and higher, I've just been topping them on top of each other. So we'll just go through them, and they are whatever order they are in. I've read pretty much all of them. I'm reading one of them right now that I actually just found. So we'll go through all of those. First, we'll dive through the ones that I don't have in hardcover. So we've got this one, The Finisher. This was a young adult series that he did. We've got this one, The Hit. We've got Memory Man. We've got Split Second. We've got Stone Cold, Stone Cold, Stone Cold. We've got Hell's Corner. We've got The Sixth Man. And then last in our ones, we've got The Innocent. And now we're going to go through all the motherfucking hardcovers. We got a lot of them. The latest one that I just got that I'm actually reading right now is Divine Justice. I'm going to put this one off to the side because that's going back into my backpack. But we've got Total Control. That was his second book. The finding the older ones has been the harder ones that I want to go through. We've got The Whole Truth. We've got Stone Cold, Stone Cold, Stone Cold. So obviously I got 2 of those. We've got The Winner. We've got First Family. We've got The Simple Truth. We've got Last Man Standing. We've got Simple Genius. The Collectors. I'm a collector. The Camel Club. Our Game. Saving Faith. The Target. The Innocent. The Fix. The Forgotten. This is one, I had this one last year, it was in the video, but I didn't have the covering for it. It was literally just it without the sleeve. So I managed to find it with the sleeve for only like $2. So we got another cover of it finally. The Fallen. Endgame. We're in the endgame now. No Man's Land. The Last Mile. The Guilty, which is actually, that's my favorite David Baldacci book. The Escape. King and Maxwell. The Sixth Man. A Minute to Midnight. Walk the Wire, Long Shadows. This is actually his newest book that just came out. This is really solid. And I'm honestly surprised that he hasn't made an announcement for his next one, because this motherfucker puts out books like it's candy. The 620 Man, Dreamtown, Mercy, Daylight, One Good Deed, Redemption. Oh boy, I'm knocking shit over. And after all that, finally the last one, The Long Road to Mercy. David Baldacci, you're a fucking legend. That's so many fucking books. Let's count how many hardcovers. 34 hardcovers. That's fucking insane. And then we finish off the B's. We've got the classic right there, baby, Jaws. We've got one of my fiance's books, He's Just Not That Into You. We've got The Great Raid, which I picked up when that movie was coming out. And then we picked up this collection. I've only read the first book, so I got the other two because I finally wanted to read them. We have the Da Vinci Code. We've got Angels and Demons, which I'm going to have to read that one now soon. I think I might get into these ones after I finish Divine Justice. And then we've got Inferno. Kicking off the C's, we've got Scott Carson, The Chill. It's a really good gothic horror book. We've got 13, Steve Kavanaugh. I need this book to be a movie immediately. It's so good. It's about a guy who kills people and then sets somebody up to take the fall, and then he ends up manipulating it so he's on the jury for the guy who's gonna fall for the murder he committed. It's so freaking good. We've got a couple of Jack Reacher books. We got Never Go Back. We got Tripwire. And then my personal favorite of the three that I've read so far was A Wanted Man. Book was fantastic. We got some Tom Clancy, baby. I've only ever read 2 of his so far, so I gotta start picking up into more of them. But we got The Sum of All Fears. We've got The Bear and the Dragon. This is one of the ones that I've read. The other one that I've read, The Hunt for Red October. Patriot Games and Hunt for the Red October were 2 books of his that I was missing that I found. And then we've got 2 hardcovers. We've got The Bear and the Dragon again. And then we've got Rainbow Six. His books are so fucking dense. I do still have to read Rainbow Six. Boy. One of the greats, or at least for that he did write, a classic book, Ready Player One, an absolute classic. He put out this book, Armada, that I actually really liked too. I thought this one was fun. And then he made, which is easily my least favorite book of his, Ready Player Two, which feels so much like him just making that because the movie did well and they were like, you gotta make a sequel, man. And he wrote that book and it was painful. We've got Harlan Coben, another really solid writer. I've only read a few of his books. I've read this one, Win. Oh, it's getting a little sticky. Fool Me Once. Haven't read that one. Runaway, I read that one. That one was solid. The Stranger, I haven't read that one. Home, I haven't read that one. Don't Let Go, I did read that one. So he's a solid one. I haven't gotten as deep into him as obviously as I've done with the David Baldacci. Maybe one day, but it hasn't been that day yet. We've got my man, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. We got Adam Copeland on Edge. This is a fine little book right there. And then we've got probably one of the best science fiction series of all time. We've got Leviathan Wakes. We got Caliban's War. Abaddon's Gate. Sibylla Byrne. Nemesis Gates. Games, not Gates. Babylon's Ashes. Persepolis Rising. Tiamat's Wrath. And last but certainly not least, Leviathan Falls. The Expanse, one of the best science fiction series that I've ever read. We've got this weird little fantasy PI detective stories by Glenn Cook called Introducing Garrett PI. It's a bunch of like short stories, I think, of just like a PI that does, it's basically like a film noir, but with fantasy characters. It was fine. We've got this Silent Night by Mary Higgins Clark. This is a book that I was missing that I found. This was just one that was passed on to me by family members. Oy, 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 oy. Ooh. We've got the Hunger Games trilogy. Suzanne Collins actually just picked these up and read these not too long ago. We got the Hunger Games, which was solid. Mockingjay here. Obviously, they're not in order. And then we've got Catching Fire, my favorite of those ones. And then we've got the latest one, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Now, if you watched the video last year, you know that one of my favorite authors is about to come up. There were two authors that pretty much got me into writing as a kid, got me into reading as a kid, wanting to be a writer. These two guys are the absolute kings. The first one is coming up right now, and it is our boy, Michael Crichton. So we've got our hardcovers first. State of Fear. I know everybody was not on board with what he did with that book, but I love that book as a piece of fiction. His posthumous release, Dragon Teeth, I actually hate that book, but I think that's mostly due to the fact that it was an unfinished manuscript and people were just like, let's just fill in the blanks. So it doesn't really have that Michael Crichton flair to it. We've got next Airframe, Prey, and finally Timeline. Absolute classics. He's another one. I would like to get all of his books in hardcover, but that's probably going to be a little bit longer to do than David Baldacci is. But then for paperbacks, we got a bunch, baby. We got Sphere. This was the actual movie book one, so I fucking hate that one. You know me, I need my actual covers. We got Jurassic Park. As you can see, this is the one that I had from when I was a kid. Got this in the 90s. You can see it's been beat up to shit. But sometimes I love that about my books, man. It's got history to it. We've got State of Fear in paperback. We've got Disclosure. We've got the actual cover of Sphere. Fucking love it. The Andromeda Strain. This was one of the first Michael Crichton books that I ever read. My parents actually passed down this book to me, so as you can see, this book has been around the block. We've got Rising Sun, a fucking classic one. We got Pirate Latitudes. I think this was another posthumous release, but this was actually a full manuscript by him that they found. We've got The Lost World, The Great Train Robbery, Terminal Man, the first Michael Crichton book of his that I ever read that got me hooked on it. This is another one that was passed down to me, so it's been around the block. Congo, and then Timeline. I just love the minimalist of this like cover. It looks so sick. Michael Crichton, the king. Got American Dirt by Janine Cummings. I actually haven't read that yet. That's the last of the C's. We got the D's kicking them off. We've actually got the first few of the Maze Runner series. I got the first Maze Runner. I got the Scorch Trials. I've got the Death Cure. I think there was one more, but I don't know. Yes, there's the Kill Order, which we don't have. I actually haven't read any of those yet. I do have to read them, so I'm gonna get onto those. These are just some miscellaneous ones, not part of like a big author. So we got Do Androids Dream of Sleep by Philip K. Dick. We've got this random book, Area 51. I think I just got it in an airport once, so I just needed something to read. One of those. And then I've got the Walk This Way biography, which is the biography of Aerosmith, written by Stephen Davis. So those are the miscellaneous bad boys. We'll put all those there. And then now we've got another big boy, which is, oh no, we've got two more miscellaneous ones, which is, oh, this is actually into E. So I guess we'll save that guy. He shouldn't even be in that pile. But the last of the miscellaneous, The World Played Chess, Robert Dugoni. This was a really, really good book. I think that's the way I should do that. Miscellaneous people go in their own for D, and then the main people here. Now we got another big boy. He's obviously not on the level of David Baldacci for me, but he is another really solid writer that I'm trying to go into all of his books for, and that is Nelson DeMille. So we've got our paperbacks here first. Word of Honor, Upcountry, The Rivers of Babylon, and The General's Daughter. I actually haven't read any of those paperbacks. But then we've got our hardcovers. We've got Wildfire, The Lion's Game. This is a beefy book. I haven't read either of those yet. We got The General's Daughter again. The Cuban Affair. This is one that I actually had that was missing, that I was able to get. and re-add to the party. Another one that I was missing and then was able to re-get was The Deserter, which is Nelson DeMille and his son. That one was a solid book. His latest book was The Maze I just picked up. This was actually probably my least favorite of the books of his that he's read, but it was signed. So we got a signed edition of that one, so that's cool. We've got The Gatehouse. This one was a really solid book of his. We've got Spencerville. It was another solid one. We've got The Charm School. I like this. It's like a hardcover, but it's like different. There's no like sleeve for it. It's just kind of like printed. This is a really interesting looking hardcover. This is a solid book though. And then we got another one of those for the Gold Coast. Is another weird like solid cover to it, but I like it. It's interesting. And then we've got Radiant Angel. It's just a little solid one also. So now we'll get to that random one in E, which was LA Confidential. I actually still have to read that book. I don't know why I haven't. Oh boy, yes, this is a huge, this was probably the biggest undertaking of a science fiction series that I've ever read in my life. This one took a lot out of me. It took a lot to get into, but it is one of the most rewarding and fantastic science fiction series I've ever read. It is Malazan Book of the Fallen. For anyone that's read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't read it, if you are not a voracious reader, I don't know if you're ready for this series yet, man. This series was insane. I remember I read it right after Wheel of Time, because after Wheel of Time, there was just a void in my life. And I was like, I need another big series to read. And then I found this one and dove into it and was like, motherfucker, I was not ready for this. This thing is huge. So we're going to go into that one now, written by Steven Erikson. They're in backwards order because at the bottom is one and all the way at the top is the last one. But I don't give a fuck. I'm doing it in order. This is just the way we're going to show it to you. So we've got The Crippled God. We got Dust of Dreams. And if you notice, every single book is like 1,200 pages. We've got Toll the Hounds. We've got Reaper's Gale. We've got The Bone Hunters. This is the book, for whatever reason, has taken the most fucking beating, too. We've got Midnight Tides. We got House of Chains. Memories of Ice. Dead House Gates. And the first book in the series, Gardens of the Moon. We've only got one author in F, and it is David Farland. He wrote this really neat science fiction series, science fiction fantasy, that I'm reading right now. I've only actually read the first 2 books, so I still have to read the next 3. And I only have the first 5. I think there was like 2 more afterwards that I gotta find. But we got the first one in the series, The Rune Lords. We've got Brotherhood of the Wolf. I found these at thrift stores. That's why they're all beaten to hell. We got The Wizard Born. It's the one I'm up to right now. We've got The Layer of Bones and Sons of the Oak. Last in the F file, we've got Cold Mountain. It's fucking great fucking book. We've got, oh geez, let's move that shit around. We got stuff all over the place right now. These are not gonna be in any type of order anymore. Another book, Sea Hunter, Paul Garrison's another book I think I just picked up at the airport when I needed something to read. David Gibbons, actually given to me by a friend, some book, Atlantis, so I'm sure I'll get to it at some point. We've got The Gray Man, great book, shitty movie. We've got the sequel to The Gray Man, On Target, great book. I gotta get the rest of those books and read. One of my favorite books is Replay by Ken Grimwood. It's a fucking fantastic book. You should absolutely check that one out if you haven't. We've got, so I had gotten Dune when the movie was about to come out because I wanted to read it. I could have sworn that I had one, but I couldn't find it. So I was like, let me pick up another one. We all know how much I hate movie covers. So I picked that book up. And then thankfully, when I found a bunch of books that I didn't know what happened to them, I found the original Dune. I think this was passed down by my dad too. So you can see this is a really old copy of it also. It just looks really sick. It's been beaten to shit, but I don't really care. I like when you have these books that have like a whole bunch of old history to it. Like this is sick. I freaking love it. So I was glad I was able to find that. All right, we go into H's. The H's are all over the place. We'll start with my fiance has got the complete Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. She's on the 3rd one right now. I was amazed to see her pick up a book and read again. I'm so happy. I hope she continues to after she finishes that. Classic right here, baby. Battlefield Earth, L. Ron Hubbard, where my Scientologists at. I've actually never read this book. Maybe one day. We've got the book Unbroken by Laura Hildenbrand. This is a really good book. It's about a dude who becomes a prisoner of war during World War II, which is really fantastic. One of my favorite books by Steve Harriman is Sleeper. It's about finding a monster that's living underneath the White House. It's just fantastic. That's a book that should absolutely be a movie. We've got the Uncle Remus stories. Splash Mountain may be gone, but we still got the Uncle Remus stories. What else we got? Oh boy. We got The Girl on the Train, Paula Hawkins. And then we got another one of my favorite books, I Am Pilgrim by Terry Hayes. Fantastic. Terry Hayes, we're still waiting for another book, man. Where's your second book? You wrote that one. It was fantastic. We've never seen you write another one. We got another author that I'm trying to get more of her books because she's really fantastic. Is Crichton Hanna. So we got The Great Alone. I really liked The Great Alone. That one was a great one. Great one. We've got The Nightingale. I haven't read this one yet. And then we've got The Four Winds. I really like this one as well. I really like her style of writing. It's very interesting and easy to read and very enjoyable. We got a few more H's. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce this guy's name. He is Swedish. We got this book, Echo. It's a very, very like gothic horror book, but it was really good. We've got The Black Phone Stories. Really, I think this was originally, it's supposed to be 20th Century Ghosts, which is a collection of short stories. But of course, when The Black Phone came out, they had to put that on there. We've got Seabiscuit Baby. Great fucking book. Another one by Laura Hildenbrand. She's just knocking them out of the park for those real life stories. I love the movie of that too. We've got Bullet Train. This is another fucking fantastic book. Great movie from last year. If you want to read the book, you want a little bit more out of it, you should absolutely read the book. It's fucking fantastic. Another one of my fiance's books, of course, if she's going to read, it's going to be trash. We've got 50 Shades of Grey. All right, we're just going to bang these two random ones out before we get to another big author. But we've got Parallel Worlds by Michio Kaku. I'm sorry when I pronounce that fucking terribly. But it's all about string theory and higher dimensions and parallel worlds. Fucking so good. And then we got this book about Thomas Jefferson and the Tripoli Pirates. This is a really fucking interesting read. And now we get to a piece de resistance. We talked about before. Here it is now. Before I read The Malazan Empire, I read The Wheel of Time, the greatest book series I've ever read. It's fucking fantastic. Oh, hi, puppy. You go away, puppy. Just fucking absolutely stellar book series. 14 books, just blew me away on what you can do with fantasy. I fucking loved it. We're going to go into them now. They're not in any order because they're all over the place, but we'll just go through them real quick. We've got The Dragon Reborn, absolute classic. So we're going to see it in a minute, a different cover for Dragon Reborn. This was the only one that I had a different cover for because I lent my original Dragon Reborn to somebody and I never got it back. And then if you watched the video last year, I was talking about how I was bugging my brother to give me his constantly, and he never would give it to me. And then finally for Christmas this year, he gifted it to me as one of his gifts to me. So thank you, Zach. I'm glad to finally have fucking Dragon Reborn, and I have the complete set once again. We've got Lord of Chaos, one of my favorite in the book series. Fires of Heaven, The Shadow Rising. As you'll see here now, this is the different Dragon Reborn cover. Like, look at how boring that is. Like, absolute disservice. We've got The Great Hunt, the first book in the series, The Eye of the World. Towers of Midnight. This is when the last few books were written by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. Robert Jordan died before he could finish the last few books, and he had such extensive notes. There was actually going to be one last book, but his notes were so extensive that Brandon Sanderson just turned it into 3 1,200-page books because that's just what Brandon Sanderson does, baby. Got The Gathering Storm. This was the first one that Brandon Sanderson helped write. We've got Knife of Dreams. This was the last one written by Robert Jordan before he died. Crossroads of Twilight. Oh boy, I'm knocking shit all over the place. Winter's Heart. The Path of Daggers. A Crown of Swords. And then the only one that I have in hardcover that I actually need to get a paperback version of to complete this is the last one, A Memory of Light. Just an absolutely stellar fucking book series. If you have not read The Wheel of Time, I implore you, if you liked Harry Potter, if you like Lord of the Rings, if you just like that fantasy realm like that, read The Wheel of Time. It will blow you out of the fucking water. We talked before how about there were 2 prolific authors that really got me into reading, into writing, into loving what reading was all about. The first one was Michael Crichton. The second one is Stephen King. I have read as much Stephen King as I possibly can. I think I only have maybe like 3 or 4 of his books left to find to read that I haven't read already. He is one of the greatest authors of all time. It's just leagues above everybody else. I have a huge collection of Stephen King that we're about to get into right now. We'll start him off with the paperbacks. We've got Pet Sematary, probably one of my favorite Stephen. That's top 5 Stephen King right there. Nightmares and Dreamscapes, that is a short story collection. Roadwork, Salem's Lot, Thinner. This is the Dark Tower 3, The Wastelands. We've got the Dark Tower 4, I think this is, Wizard and Glass. And then we've got the Dark Tower 2. This is the drawing of the 3. We've got the Tommyknockers. This is probably top 5 for me too. I love that book. I know a lot of people don't like that book, but I am not one of them. I fucking love it. Or maybe top 10, we'll say. Gerald's Game. Cujo. Hearts in Atlantis. Insomnia. This is definitely top 5. I fucking loved that book when I read it. We've got The Green Mile. The Dead Zone. This book was fantastic. Much better than the movie. Blaze. Fucking fantastic one right here. It. The Eyes of the Dragon. Black House. He wrote that with Peter Straub. The Dark Tower 1, The Gunslinger. Bag of Bones. Dreamcatcher. Christine. Loved that book. My favorite Stephen King book, The Stand. The Regulators. Another in the top 5, top 10 category, Needful Things. I definitely got to do a ranking video of all these Stephen King books. Dolores Claiborne. Misery. Misery. I have a lot of Misery. I like the covers. Those are all of our paperbacks. Dear God, we've got so many fucking hardcovers now to get into. Oh my Lord. We'll kick it off. Needful Things. This is another one, as you could tell, like Michael Crichton, like David Baldacci, I want to have all of the paperbacks that I can of Stephen King's. Gerald's Game. If It Bleeds. This is a short story collection. Full Dark, No Stars. It's a short story collection. The Dark Half. It's a solid one right there. We got one of my favorites, Insomnia. It's a fucking beefy book. Bag of Bones. Another one I would put in the top 10 category, 11/22/63. Just fantastic fucking Stephen King book right there. This is actually the latest Stephen King book I just read. This is another one that would go in top 5, top 10 for me. That is Under the Dome. It's just fan-fucking-tastic. We got another version of The Green Mile. Got this old style version of Firestarter. His newest book that just came out, Fairy Tale. Cujo. Cell. End of Watch. Finders Keepers. The Outsider. Mr. Mercedes. The Institute. Oh, motherfucker. From a Buick 8. Revival. Dreamcatcher. The Dark Tower 7, The Dark Tower. The Dark Tower 6, Song of Susanna. The Dark Tower 5, Wolves of the Kala. Billy Summers. Dr. Sleep. The Talisman. Just After Sunset. It's another short story collection. And the last one so far for the hardcovers, another copy of Misery. Stephen King is the fucking GOAT. Fantastic man. I just want to keep collecting. Got to keep finding them. If you find any Stephen Kings, send them my way. Let me know where I can get them because I'm trying to get all my Stephen Kings, baby. Our last NK is my boy David Coep, one of the finest screenwriters around, has now turned his attention to book writing. He got his debut book right here, Cold Storage, which was really, really good. I like that book a lot. And then his second book, Aurora, that he put out. I like 2/3 of this book. I think it needed to be a little bit longer. The ending left a little bit of desire, but it was still really good. I'm looking forward to whatever he does next. Then we've got some random books here. This book, The Hunter, this is a random one given to me by one of my friends. We've got these, let's move those ones over there. We've got The Bounty Hunters by Elmore Leonard. This is a really solid Western book. We picked up from Dennis Lehan. I got Mystic River. I definitely want to dive into this one because I absolutely love the movie. And then I also picked up the hardcover of Shutter Island. Definitely want to dive into that one as well because I also love that movie. And then we got my boy Robert Ludlum. Picked up a whole bunch of Robert Ludlum stuff. His books, the only ones of his that I've read are the Bourne trilogy, but I definitely want to pick up the rest of his stuff to give a read because I really, really like the Bourne trilogy. So we got this book, The Road to Omaha. We got The Bourne Ultimatum. The Bourne Supremacy was my favorite one in the series. The Bourne Identity. And then I got this other cover of The Bourne Identity as well. We've got the hardcover of the Sigma Protocol by him. We've got this other one, The Tristan Betrayal. I actually just picked this up the other day. And then we found a hardcover of The Bourne Supremacy as well. So I had to get that because that one is my favorite of his series in that. Oh, all right. We've got the book on Chesil Beach by Ian McEwan. That is the guy who wrote this next book, a great movie, Atonement. Love this book, so I picked up another one of his to give it a shot. I never read it. I've only read Atonement so far. And then we got everyone's favorite author to hate on. I hate him too. No, I don't really, but he does make me very upset because we're still waiting for his next book, and it's been like 12 fucking years. And that is our boy, I think you can guess who it is, George R.R. Martin. This is a book series that did, Wild Cards. I think it's got a bunch of different authors in it. It's not just him. I think there's a few people that have some stories in there. But yep, we're talking George R.R. Martin, that son of a bitch. Where's that next book, you motherfucker? But yeah, we got all our George R.R. Martin stuff here. We got A Feast for Crows. I gotta get the hardcover of that bad boy. Got a Clash of Kings, gotta get a hardcover of that bad boy. We got Fire and Blood, which is what House of the Dragon is based on, or at least portions of it right now. We got A Dance with Dragons. We got A Storm of Swords. I gotta get like the official hardcovers of these ones right here. I just have like these big ones. We got the Game of Thrones. I want the actual one because I fucking hate TV covers. And then we've got another version of A Clash of Kings. Fucking fantastic book series. They're some of my favorite fantasy books that I've ever read. I just wish that we'd actually get the end of the story before the man croaks, because I ain't going by what the TV show said, because fuck that show. We got one of the best plays ever written, The Crucible. I fucking love that story. We got this book, The Deer Park by Norman Mailer. It's a random book I picked up. It was all right. We got Knoll Country for Old Men, Cormac McCarthy. Obviously, we need a regular one because I fucking hate these covers. These goddamn movie covers, man. Same thing here again. Cloud Atlas. Fucking great book. Can't stand that cover. We got Red Sparrow. I picked this one up, obviously, right around the movie was coming out. I ended up fucking just not liking that book whatsoever, so I never ended up picking up any of the other Red Sparrow books. And I guess it worked because we never got another Red Sparrow movie, because just much like the book, the movie left a lot to be desired. And then we've got Heat 2, the sequel to Heat, written by Michael Mann with Meg Gardner. This book was actually really good. I would love to see this as in a sequel to Heat, whether they're going to do it as a TV show or as a movie. Get it done, because that book is really, really good. We got a lot of random stuff here that's not in any type of order, so we're just going to dive through them. We got Sacred Trust, Meg O'Brien. This is another book that I think I just found in an airport. Well, I just needed something to read. Some books that I knew I had, but that we couldn't find from last year because they were just missing. We've got Rant by Chuck Palahniuk. we've got Fight Club, and we've got Choke. I think I picked those up right around the time that movie Choke came out, and I got those. I've only ever read Choke and Fight Club. I didn't read Rant. We've got this book, An Island Away. It was a novel about Aruba. I go to Aruba a lot. Fucking love that place. And I remember in the airport, this book was there. And so I was like, why not? Let's give that one a shot. And then I never read it. Got this book, The Informant by Thomas Perry. Never read that. We've got The Escape Artist by Brad Meltzer. This book is actually really good. I really enjoy it. We got this really old style Winnie the Pooh book. Fucking so awesome. We've got the book The Kingdom by Joe Nesbo. I did have The Snowman, but I don't know where that one went, so I guess I'm going to end up having to get it again. I was not the biggest fan of that book, The Kingdom. A book I was a big fan of, though, was this book Under Money by Jane Newman. This was his first book. This is a really solid thriller dealing with under money. That's all I got. Under Money. Look it up. We got Where the Crawdads Sing. Read that over the summer right before the movie came out. It was actually really solid. We got Animal Farm. That's a classic right there. A book from when I was a kid because I absolutely love Disney. I got this book, The Kingdom Keepers, which follows a group of kids that it's pretty much Night at the Museum, but with Disney. And then we've got these two versions of The Godfather, I guess the regular one that I had, and then we got a 30th anniversary edition. And then one of my fiance's favorite movies, picked up the book. I don't know if she's ever read it. Divergent. We've got what I think is a necessary requirement for anyone's collection that is from my generation. I think it's something we've all grown up with, and that is the Harry Potter signature series. So I've got right here in paperback the first one, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and I've got Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. These are the only two that I have in paperbacks. The fourth one, Goblet of Fire, also is the only one that I still have to get in hardcover. So that's the only one that I'm still searching for because I've got Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. We've got Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. We've got Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Got those Death Eaters there on the back. We've got Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. We've got Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And then we've got Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. All of those are my ones from when I was a kid as well, with the exception of the first one. The first hardcover is actually one that I found at a thrift store because 1 and 4 were some reason the only ones that I picked up in paperback. We've got this random book, Area 7 by Matthew Riley. That's probably an error. Any of those random ones that you see, like right here, The Devil's Code, these are all just airport buys where like I finished the book that I brought and I just needed another book to read, so I just pick up a random book in the airport. We've got The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I still need to pick up the rest of those ones. We got Lovecraft Country. This was a really solid book. I actually only made it through a little bit of the HBO series. We've got Holes, absolute classic right there. It's probably another one of the first few books that we've all read. And then one of my favorite just people, I think his outlook on life and the world and science and all that is like always just so super interesting to me. And that is Carl Sagan. I have his book about the cosmos. And then I have the one fiction book that he wrote, which is a great fucking movie, which is Contact. Absolute classics right there. And now we move on to the absolute king. He helped finish the Wheel of Time franchise, which is how I came about finding him. He is one of the best authors writing today. He's actually my favorite author writing today. Stephen King and Michael Crichton are of all time. Brandon Sanderson is of the moment. He is my favorite author at this moment. He probably will join those other two when all is said and done as we get further into his career. He's a little still too, he's probably like in the early to mid portion of his career right now, so I don't throw him in there yet as the greatest of all time with Michael Crichton and Stephen King, because those guys are on a platform all their own for me. But Brandon Sanderson will definitely be joining that club because every book that he writes is fucking fantastic. He busts them out so often. He's just one of the greatest to ever do it. And so we're going to dive into his stuff right now. So we've got The Hero of Ages. We've got The Well of Ascension. I still have to pick up another copy of the first one, The Mistborn, in paperback because this one that I did have, my brother took because he read it and loved it and decided it was his now. We've got Elantris, Warbreaker, and then we've got Arcanum Unbounded. This is actually a collection of short stories. And then we've got The Alloy of Law. We've got Shadows of Self. And we've got The Bands of Mourning. All fucking great books. Oy, oy, oy. All right, come on. We've got Skyward. We've got Starsight. And then I also have the third one, but my dad still has it. If you watched this video from last year, I said he had it, and he still fucking has it because the man just doesn't read. So I got to get the third one back from him at some point. We've got The Lost Metal. We've got the absolute stellar Way of Kings. This is probably top 5 of like the best books I've ever read in my life. Just fucking look at that. Just absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best books I've ever read. You should absolutely read it if you haven't read it because it's fucking that goddamn good. We've got the second book in that series, The Words of Radiance. Look at that fucking earthy tome. Every one of these books is just so goddamn dense. And then we've got Oathbringer. Look at this fucking thing. It's meaty. And then his latest one to come out, well, of the Stormlight, not his latest book to come out. The Lost Metal was his latest book to come out. This is the latest of the Stormlight to come out. This is Rhythm of War. Look at that. Just fucking incredible. One of the best to ever do it. The rest of these are not in any particular order because there's just not enough of the author to have it, so they're just all over the place. But we've got The 12 Caesars by Suetonius. We've got My Fiance Strikes Again, Pretty Little Liars. And then we've got, oh boy, we have to dive into all those. Move that around. We've got, dear Lord, I'm gonna flip these over. We got Stay Out of the Basement. We got Monster Blood. We got Say Cheese and Die. We got The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. We got Let's Get Invisible. We got Welcome to Camp Nightmare. We got Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. We got Why I'm Afraid of Bees. We got Bad Hair Day. And we've got Egg Monsters from Mars. We've also got this Ghostbusters tin. We pop that open. Gives us another Monster Blood again. Another Why I'm Afraid of Bees. We got A Night in Terror Tower. We've got The Beast from the East. And then we've got Legend of the Lost Legend. What a title there. Legend of the Lost Legend. So that is all of our Goosebumps. Gotta collect more of those bad boys. So if anyone's got a beat on Goosebumps, you send them to me, man, because I need them. We've got The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. We got Annihilation. You might remember the movie that came out a few years ago. Movie, amazing. This book, fucking terrible. Was not a fan of that one at all. We got this book, Only the Dead Know Burbank. It's another book that I just picked up because I liked the cover and it looked cool, and then I just was not a fan. We've got this meaty beast. I gotta get, I want to try and get them all singular and get actual copies of it and not just have the trilogy as part. I mean, I do like, for one of the movie covers, I do enjoy this because that is a pretty sick little cover right there. But this is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This has Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King in it. I got this when I was a kid, right after Return of the King came out, and I realized I wanted to read these bad boys. Fucking epic series right there. I do want to get them eventually for their single books so I can have like each one that look really solid. We got this book, Beneath a Scarlet Sky. This book is absolutely incredible. It follows a kid living in Italy during World War II and all the shit he has to see and go through. Absolutely incredible. Where's my movie of that? We got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino. It's really solid. We got The History of the Peloponnesian War. Freaking just stellar book right there. And then shameless plug, baby. We did it last year. We're doing it again this year. Shameless plug. My book, Adrift, that I wrote. It's very solid if you enjoy it. I think so. I think you'll enjoy it. If you like zombie stories, if you like thriller stories, if you like post-apocalyptic stories, I think you'll enjoy this one. I know it's been a long time since I have written another book. The second book that I wrote turned out that I can't self-release it because there's too much stuff that I would need authorization from like actual people to do it. Like there's a lot of like song lyrics and references and stuff that like I just can't self-release it myself. I have to get like all these permissions and everything. So that's a book that until I get an agent or all that stuff and get published, that's a book that's just going to sit in the shelf. I'm actually almost done with my third book, which I could possibly be able to self-release it if it comes to that. Hopefully, trying to find a publisher. If you're out there, you're a publisher, hey, you like books, you're looking for a good person, selfless plug right here. I'm not too shabby. So there you go. Then we have our last pile of random books. We've got Pieces of Her, Karen Slaughter. We got another Quentin Tarantino book here, Cinema Speculation. I actually really enjoyed that book. I hope he does more like that. We got The Chalk Man, C.J. Tudor. We got Personal Injuries, Scott Turow. We got The Last Trial. Whew. And Reversible Errors. Move all this shit over. We have the book Exodus. It's a really fucking good movie. I haven't read the book. We've got Infinite Jest. I've never actually read that. That thing's just so fucking dense. We got this book, The Thousand Deaths of Arterben, fantasy book, just sounded interesting. I still have yet to read it. And then last but certainly not least, the man, the myth, the legend, Andy Weir. We've got The Martian. Freaking love this book. I actually picked that one up at an airport because I needed something to read and I'd never heard about that before. And then I was like, I'm going to fucking read that. And it was great. And then we got his second book, Artemis. I have his third book also, Project Hail Mary, but of course that's another one that my dad has. If you watched the video last year, again, those were the two books he had. He still fucking has them. This dude just doesn't read. He's killing me. So I'm going to have to just drive over and just steal those books back from him if we get to this video next year and I still don't have them back. We're just going to have to go rob him at that point. And that'll do it for this year. That is a huge motherfucking collection of books. I love collecting books just as much as I love collecting movies. I love reading, is one of my favorite things to do. I try to read at least a book a week, maybe more depending on the length of the book. Some books might take a little bit longer, as you can see, because I like to read some heady tomes. But I love myself some books. I love reading. I can't wait to do this video again next year so I can once again see how much this collection has grown since last year. It has been a hell of a ride. As always, you should get out there and do some reading yourself if you haven't seen. There's a lot of good stuff in here that I recommend you checking out if you haven't already done so, or you don't know if you're a fantasy fan, science fiction fan, anything like that. Check out Brandon Sanderson, check out The Wheel of Time, check out The Expanse, check out Malazan Book of the Fallen. So much good stuff. If you like your detective stuff and everything, check out your David Baldacci, check out your Delson DeMille, check out your Scott Turow, like so much good stuff in there. And then if you love your horror, I'm sure everyone's checked out at least one or two Stephen King books, but I implore you to dive into more of him if you haven't so much. If you really just know him from like It and all that stuff and that's what you've read, you really got to deep dive into him because he's one of the greatest authors of all time. Same goes for Michael Crichton. If you've only ever read Jurassic Park, dig into more of his stuff. There is so much good stuff out there in regards to books. Like there's just so much good stuff. But that'll do it for all of us here at the Outpost in this adventure. Until next time, you have been you, I have been me. You can't see them, but the books are all over the place. These are the books that we love to read. And until next time, adventure on.